this subcommittee organized ourselves to be a action task force, but we have to comply with Navajo Nation laws. And so with President Nygren vetoing that opportunity, it is going to challenge our ability today to reach quorum unless we can, if I could get your assistance and after roll call and we start the report, if you could help or your team at the office can help to call each individual task force member and ask them if they're gonna be here in person. I do know that Shanola task force member Laurel Shepherd has stated that I believe she said Tuba City, so she'll be calling in, but won't be here in person. And I would need to know what other task force members will be joining us in person to meet the quorum. So right now, how many, is it 7 that we need for quorum? So we'll need 7 in-person task force members. So if your team there at the office could help you, Miss Spencer, I think that would be helpful. But we'll move along with the agenda and do our best. And so when it comes to the agenda, if we don't have quorum, then is the recommendation we could move forward with reports and just hear the reports when you don't have quorum?
I believe so, Madam Chair.
Okay.
You can go ahead and just continue with the reports.
Okay. But we won't, okay, but we won't be able to accept yeah, we can't accept the agenda or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. So those who are on the call, who are task force members, that is a change, a dramatic change, I would say, to the way we conduct our task force meetings, because we are a subcommittee of the Nabigiatia. We're, we have to abide by the rules of the committee. That's why we have to announce the agenda 24 hours ahead of time. And uh, so with this being said, a lot of the task force members who are not here are part of the executive branch. So I would also need to know if President Nygren's office contact the task force members to let them know about his veto and that their expectation is they would be here in person. If the staff can help with that.
Chair Patty?
Hold on one second. Is that okay? I know that you're doing a lot here, but just text someone up there if they're on the call, or
Okay.
have them join the call
Okay.
so that they could help us and know who the task force members are.
I think somebody wants.
Okay, hold on. Can you let me know? I'm not connected yet. Who wants to talk?
That's gonna be Salanza.
Okay, so I did call the meeting to order.
At 8:40, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's give me 1 second because I want to just do roll call. Is that the next action?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do roll call.
Where was it that you put? Oh.
Yeah, thanks, yes, you delegate. So thank you for joining us. We're just getting started here.
You want me to do a roll call then?
Yeah, let's just do that, and then your staff will know who they need to call to see if they're going to be here in person.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the MMDR Task Force. Roll call. Honorable Amber Knospa Prodi. Helena Naz Begay. Eugenia Charles Newton. Pontiana Billy. I'm present. Yolanda Azua. Anna Scott. Rosita Billy. Denise Billy. Angela Sanford. Michael Henderson. Laura Shepherd.
Here online.
Tanya Grass.
I'm here online as well.
John Sosi. Miski Yate. Milton Woodhouse Jr. Janet Deschini. Salonsa Jim.
System Lotsa.
Begay? Madam Chair, you have 5 members present, including yourself.
So, Treasurer, what we have is 2 members present and then 3 members on the line.
Mhm.
So we don't have quorum at this time. But I want to go into Salotza. Shade, you had a question?
Yes, Chair, thank you for the announcement. Just a point of clarification. I've been the task force since the very first meeting from the beginning, and every task force meeting we have had has been hybrid from the inception of our subcommittee. So I just want to know if we're saying now that all those meetings have not been conducted correctly, or are we just saying that we're going to need to come up with a new in-person meeting because of this latest veto? I'm kind of concerned because as a task force, we have been running our meetings hybrid from day one, and that should set some type of meeting order for our legislative council to help us with. So I'm thinking that because the task force is unique, we should be able to still continue to meet hybrid, but I think we need some guidance from our representative from legislative council. Thank you, Chair.
I appreciate it. Shade, I'm also on the same stance that as a task force, when the establishing of the resolution, that there was some request as a sponsor that this task force, because of its uniqueness and including community representatives, and that there wasn't a budget for non-Navajo Nation employees to drive in, that our request was to have that hybrid option. On our end, we still had to follow some requirements. And the flexibility was recognized. And but with this veto, it's clear now that until there's a veto override, and I'm speaking with my colleagues on that vote, until there's a veto override, that we cannot have virtual committees, and then subsequently subcommittees cannot have that virtual option at this time. So this happened on Monday night, and as we've been analyzing the impact of that vetoed message, it was shed light that it would also impact this committee, since although in our name it says task force, but we're of the Nabagiatik committee. And so our rules follow the committee's rules, although internally we created some flexibility. That's why we vote by consensus. That's why we've offered hybrid and trying to be trauma informed and meet the families where they're at. And so I'm working with the Legislative Council right now and have formally requested a review. I've asked the Office of the Speaker to review that veto for the impact, so we know how to move forward. And if we need to clarify, and I don't want to say codify, but formally, we would have to amend Title II, which are the rules of under Title II are the rules of the committee, to change the rules of the committee so that this task force, or maybe any task force, would have the opportunity for the hybrid option and use our rules. So that is the challenge with this veto. It's a change in the rules and a change in Title II. So we still have the option for our Tuesday calls. to, because they're considered core, or we'll start naming it like a leadership meeting, and we'll still have the option to meet hybrid with no issue on our Tuesday calls. I hope that helps everyone on the call. I know that this is all new, ongoing, and so my hope was that we would have our representative from the Office of the President and Vice President, Ms. Yolanda Azua, present, so that she could help the task force understand the rationale of President Nygren's action, and with her role as being the liaison for missing and murdered Nene relatives, missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, that she plays a key role in communicating the recommendations and needs of the task force. And so I was hoping she would be here in person today to help answer any questions we may have as a task force in moving forward. And so with legislative staff reaching out, my hope is in the time allotted to us that we could meet quorum if these executive representatives do show up in person. A majority of them are assigned here in Window Rock, and our meeting location is the Law and Order Conference Room. So appreciate that, Shada. We'll continue to advocate for the task force, and maybe what I'll do is we could create a letter, Tatiana and Ms. Spencer, if we could create a letter stating the specific needs of the task force and moving forward, and how we work with community representatives. And we need that flexibility as they're calling in from all different areas of the Navajo Nation and our surrounding partners. Okay. And I have committed to I know that we did the attendance history, and so we'll work together with staff. On my end, I haven't had time, but we'll work together with staff and Tatiana as co-chair, and we're both in the mix for individuals who are not attending the meeting, and if they want to then change either their representation, because that is all that's required is a letter. And we can open it up for some of the community representatives, and we could reach out to see if they want to continue being a community representative or have another drive to ask for letters of interest to replace the community representatives who no longer have the capacity to attend the scheduled task force meetings. And this also can provide an opportunity for us as a task force. This date and time was selected by the task force. Previous to this, to Thursday at 8:30, we were meeting on Tuesdays at 8:30. And that's where I've been able to stick with that time on a weekly basis. And so for task force members who are on the line, that's also some flexibility we may be able to have if a Tuesday at 8:30 works to have an in-person. We also can have the flexibility of how many times we meet in person to do actual adopt or receive reports. And as I mentioned, we can, in the interim, I could call leadership meetings, and we could do the work there and move forward with recommendations. The action that we would need for quorum is when we take an official position. So twice a year by resolution, we have to provide a recommendation to Navajo Nation leadership. So that report was submitted at the beginning of October, because it's due before the fourth quarter, which is October 1st. And so our next report will be due before March 30th. So in terms of quorum or official action, my hope is that this is straightened out and clarified for the task force, so that we could take official action for those recommendations that go into the official record to Navajo Nation leadership. And that's by and we could also give reports to the Nabagiatiat committee to to recommend a position, and I could move forward as the delegate on this committee as a position piece, similar to what I'm doing with the Tribal Community Response Plan. So we still have some options. I just think in terms of uh, how because of the attendance, I had to just let staff know that there was this change because of the impact of the veto.
Solansa has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Shada, you have the floor.
Thank you for that clarification, Delegate Crotty. It makes sense now. Can I motion to change this meeting to a leadership meeting so we can still hear the report and not worry about the quorum?
That's a great question. Ms. Spencer, what does committees do when they can't meet quorum, but move forward with the report? Do we have to change it to a leadership meeting?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so what would be the process?
But right now you don't have,
We can't make,
yeah.
so here's the conundrum. We don't have quorum, so you can't make a motion, because I can't.
Oh, it's not, it's the MMDR.
So what we can do, as a task force, I could just call the meeting at 8:57. I don't want to get too technical, because this is what we do at committees. And I'll just say we didn't have quorum, and staff is going to help us, and then we're going to stay on the call and hear the report. Abiga? Okay, we could do that. So I'll call the meeting because no other task force members have come in person. And, it's at our discretion when to call when there's no quorum. And as chair, I haven't received any texts from other task force members that they will be here in person. And we would need 5 additional task force members to be here in person. So I'll call the meeting at 8:57. And that's just some of, the challenges of the challenges we're facing here at Navajo Nation when it comes to supporting our missing and murdered Dine relatives family. But we can move forward. Is Andrea ready with her team?
Yes, they're ready.
Okay, so if we could give Andrea the sharing capability, and we'll move forward and prioritize the report from Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue. And if there's time, or I could just send out an email on the TCRP, because what we'll do is we'll try, so in addition, colleagues on the task force, if you're not aware of the situation we're in at legislative branch, our budget has been reduced by the president by 92%. So I have had to dramatically decrease my time has dramatically decreased on the work that I can perform as a delegate, because we have no operating budget practically. Our legislative district assistants are slated to be laid off at the end of the month. And so what I'm trying to do on our end is, through the task force, have assignments to task force members. And one of those assignments is Twyla Largo with the Navajo Technical University. She's going to help the task force with some of its logistics. And so my hope is that through this phase that we pivot and do as much work as we can within the means that we have. And so because of the impact on our budget as legislative delegates, I would need more help from the task force and community representatives and volunteers to do some of the work that I usually do. And so we have a logic model. We could share that. It's in the Google Doc, is my understanding, because so what I'll have to focus in on areas that, as a delegate, as an elected official, to move to move our objectives. And right now, a lot of that is rested on the budget. So I think I've given some budget updates, and I'll do that via email, because I want to focus on the report, but it's not only this fiscal year's budget that was recommended for to help our MMDR families with justice. We're also finding out there was I'll say this, that there was a misuse of former funding that was allocated to the executive for MMDR initiatives. And so I have asked for, on behalf of the task force, to get a comprehensive um, I guess, preliminary audit on all of the funding that we have recommended to the executive programs so that they could provide a report on how they use that funding to help assist our MMDR families. So that is certainly something that we have never experienced in the past. But as a delegate, I have to use that role. And so a lot of my time and energy is being focused in on those areas so that we can collectively come together, because what we can do is have, the people go to the vote and have the people state that this funding will only be used for our missing and murdered and their relatives and these initiatives for advocates, for search and rescue, for families. Uh, and so I'll be developing that component, and it would be under the umbrella of the Victim Rights Act so that we could tie in each of those. So that's an update in terms of the budget and some of the role that I have to do, like as a delegate. And but we also, once I get the lay of the land, I'll provide a preliminary update to the task force. And if there's areas that you feel you can contribute, then that would be great, as there's multiple investigations happening on different areas of the Navajo Nation. And so I just want to make sure that we're accountable to the families, as we're survivors ourselves. And they have asked, where is their funding going? So we'll make note that that will be part of our report to Navajo leadership, is also an update on that funding. So I know that one of the components is to help the task force understand the Navajo Nation budget process. Uh, and I chair the New Mexico committee. And so I do have our working document here for priorities to request from the different states. And as the federal government is reopening, how we're going to request for allocation from the federal government. So that'll be an upcoming report. So let's move forward with, Ms. Spencer.
Madam Chair. So we have Honorable Gina Charles Newton on the line also, and Yolanda Azul is on the call too.
Okay, so they're both hybrid. So okay, thank you. Just as an update, task force members, we have not reached quorum. There was a veto of the virtual option for committees. And so in order for this task force to move forward, we need 7 task force members in person, and we haven't met that threshold. There's 2 of us here on the line. And this happened on Monday, and it was after some policy review that it was discovered that it also impacts this task force, because we are a navigated committee under resolution. So that does impact. So thank you for joining the call. We'll move forward with the report. Andrea?
Yes, Delicate Hardy, my sister's on now, so she'll be doing the presentation.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
Bernadine.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Yat a she Bernadine Biel Yinishe, Torich Ini Nishlen, Ki Ani Bashichin, Bitatni Edashache, Honagatni Edashanele. Thank you all for inviting us in this morning to give a brief update of what we've been working on, what we've encountered this past year. I'm gonna give a real brief overview of what we're doing. I'm not going to do a full presentation of what we do, how we got started. I'm going to focus more on the work that's happened this year, what we're seeing, what the challenges have been for us. So I will get started. This first slide is just information, our address, our website address, our email, and our social media handles. Our vision is to locate, rescue, recover lost and missing persons on Native American tribal lands and their surrounding communities. Our mission is by serving victims and families with empathy, compassion, and respect, we provide immediate hope, relief, and support during the agonizing trauma of having a missing loved one. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So this sustaining our work, we are 100% a volunteer team. Nobody on our team gets a salary. We do not have a consistent source of funding. So we do a lot of fundraising, as well as a lot of the cost we cover comes out of our own team members' pockets. We do community events, fundraising events. We take direct donations from supporters. We build local partnerships and outreach to help in our funding as well. The needs for our team, we're currently trying to get a vehicle for team deployment. A lot of my team members don't have trucks, they have cars, and their cars can't make it into a lot of these remote areas that we have to get to. So primarily my own personal vehicle is used, and if my truck breaks down today, I cannot move forward or go anywhere to assist. So we've been trying to do what we can to, we've been doing what we can to see how we can get funding for a vehicle. We're also trying to get a couple more Starlink minis to help with communication so that we could have one out in our incident base, and then a couple more out in the field with team members as they go out into these areas. A lot of it, our funding goes to equipment upgrades, especially our canine gear, radios, and safety supplies. I have to upkeep training on the canines and our team members. Everybody has to have their certifications completed, and everybody has to recertify on the team every 3 years. Why does this matter? So that we can continue to serve families into 2026 and beyond, and to ensure tribes and communities have reliable search and rescue support when they call for help. This is just a little bit of my certifications. I'm very grounded in FEMA. A lot of my work started with the state of New Mexico for search and rescue. So I did a lot of certifications through the Department of Public Safety, along with my team and with canine search and rescue teams throughout the state of New Mexico ever since 2016. I also sit on the New Mexico DOJ MMIP task force. Also a member with the state of New Mexico Human Trafficking Task Force as well. Just to introduce you all to a couple of our team members. If you don't know about him, up on top is Gunny. He's our Black Czechoslovakian Shepherd. He's 4. He's certified in live find and air scent. He comes to us from Texas. Gunny was actually part of a litter that was actually bred to go to Texas Police Department or the Mexican police. 4 years ago, I met a guy who saw the work we were doing and said he wanted to donate a puppy to us. So out of Gunny's litter, he's the only one that went to search and rescue. So his brothers and sisters are all working in Texas or Mexico as police dogs. And when I got Gunny, a lot of his training was done in Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish so that I could get him to learn Navajo. So all his commands are done in Navajo. So Gunny is actually trilingual because he knows Spanish, Navajo, and English. So if I need a translator, I usually depend on Gunny. Down below is Moby. Moby is our British Labrador. We got him from Troy, Alabama. He's 2 years old, and he is certified in HRD cadaver. HRD is human remains detection. And that's strictly all he does for us. He's our cadaver dog. And Moby didn't doesn't only other language Moby has is a Southern accent because he was raised down in the South in Alabama, and we brought him back, and he also has all his commands in Navajo. This is our impact slide. This shows some stats over the past 4 years as we were established as a nonprofit organization in 2022. So I'll just kind of explain what this all means to you. Calls is just every call we get, doesn't matter what it is. Family call says, we need help. I don't know if you can help us. Here's what's going on. It could be law enforcement, it could be another agency. These are just calls that are in relation to a missing person. Searches are not every phone call we get, we can turn it into a search just based off the information. We have to have true, viable facts. We have to have good evidence. We have to know the last known point, last known location. So a lot of intake goes into, are we able to help a family or not based off the information they have? So that's what searches means. And then down below is how many females we've searched for from the age 4 to 100 years old, how many males we've searched for from 30 years old to 90 years old. And assistance. Assistance means how many times on our searches was law enforcement with us. It could have been the missing persons unit. It could be Cibola County Sheriff, which is out of Grant. It could be Farmington PD. It could be the BIA, or it could be San Juan County Sheriff. So that's what assistance means. How many times were any of those agencies with us on these searches? And then just below is how many searches we've done in each of those states. So let's look at 2022. In 2022, we had 47 phone calls. Of those 47 phone calls, 25 of them we were able to conduct searches. Of those 25, 4 of them were females, 11 of them were males. And that year we had assistance from an agency 1 time out of our 25 searches. 10 of those searches were done in Arizona, 7 were in New Mexico, 2 were in Utah, 1 was in Colorado. And then the other down below is the Blackfeet Nation has a 4-year-old girl that's been missing since 2021. She went missing along the Two Medicine River. So they saw us on social media and asked if there was any way we could come help them with our canine. So we did a lot of fundraising, and we made our way up there, searched with them for 2 days, but no luck in the area of the river. And as of today, she's still missing. So I just want to highlight something in 2023. In 2022, a lot of it was family focus. Every year is family focus. We're going to help the families. We're going to gather data. We're going to find out what's working, what's not working. What are their needs? So it was a lot of data gathering for us in 2022. When we went into 2023, it was, what are we going to do with this information we've gathered? And it was a lot of relationship building. We need to build relationships based off what's happening out there. So we needed to really build relationships with more law enforcement agencies, especially our missing persons unit. And every year we still have to build relationships with everybody. So that relationship building is ongoing over the years. So in 2023, we had 34 searches, and of those 34 searches, we had assistance 17 times. So some law enforcement agency was with us out of those 34 times, which was great because we went from 1 to 17. And that year is when the missing persons unit was put together. So a lot of work went into that, a lot of collaboration, a lot of educating and communicating with each other. I saw a lot of increase in the focus on missing person cases that year. So I was really proud of everything they were doing, their goals they were working towards, which I always tell them, I think 2023 was a really good year for all that work we were doing together with them. Then 2024 came and its calls and searches just start increasing. Out of the 30 searches in 2024, we had assistance only 9 times out of those. And then if we go to 2025, we are now at 39 searches. We're actually going to have a search this weekend, so it's going to move up to 40. So assistance this year moved up a little bit, but I'm going to say it moved up to 15 times an agency was with us, but this is because we're getting more local, our local sheriff, our local PD, or other local county sheriffs are asking us for assistance. So a lot of this number, excuse me, this 15 times, I'm going to say about 10 of them this year are from our local PD, our sheriff, or another sheriff in a different county in the state of New Mexico. This year, highlighted projects for us. We hosted an MMIP Legal Day. We partnered with Dine Legal Services to host a full day session for families. The goal was to break down the legal processes that can feel overwhelming and often leave families in the dark. This event gave families tools to navigate the systems that they're often left to figure out on their own. Then we hosted a Truckers Against Trafficking event here in Farmington, New Mexico. So, you know, although we began as a canine search and rescue team, our work has expanded as we've listened to families and responded to the needs we've seen on the ground. So one example is our expansion of this partnership with Truckers Against Trafficking. What brought Truckers Against Trafficking into this is in the case of Tamika Platero. Her searches took us along dirt roads that cut across tribal lands, but also connect to towns and truck stops and major highways. So this opened our eyes to how vulnerable these routes are, not just for missing person cases, but also for trafficking. So Truckers Against Trafficking, their mission is to educate, mobilize members of the trucking, bus, and energy industries to combat human trafficking. So at this event, families and community members toured the Freedom Drivers Project trailer. It's this powerful, it's a mobile exhibit. And inside of it, it shares the stories of trafficking survivors, as well as the truck stop workers and transit industry employees who noticed something and they spoke up and they saved lives. So Truckers Against Trafficking this vision is gonna be ongoing for us into 2026. We're going to be creating a campaign with them going into next year, but we're trying to finalize a few things in the next couple of months, and then we'll make an announcement on what our plan is with this campaign with Truckers Against Trafficking into 2026. Also this year, we attend a lot of meetings, events, talk to a lot of people, and of course, in the state of New Mexico. We started doing a lot in the state of Arizona because a lot of our calls have been coming from the state of Arizona lately. And then we started working more with the Southern Ute tribe in Colorado and also working with OMMIR out of Colorado. We just did a presentation with them last month and working on a partnership on helping them, especially with urban searches. A lot of requests up that way are assisting in how to conduct urban searches for missing relatives in Colorado. So the one state we haven't really done a lot with is Utah. So this year, that was part of our goal, was to collaborate with the state of Utah. So we went up to the state capitol. We did a presentation up there. And we also had the opportunity to meet people with Title VI programs. We want to add education and figure out how to incorporate all this work, what's happening out there, how do we educate our youth, how do we get this into the schools. So we just had a couple meetings with educators with the Title VI programs, especially with Dr. Chuck Foster. And this is going to be another expansion of a project going into 2026 with us and the Title VI programs. The next couple slides are, I'm calling them what we're seeing on the ground, challenges we're seeing out there this past year and over the past 4 years as being a nonprofit. So where structure is affecting response. So I want to be fair in this because our missing persons unit officers do great work when they're assigned to cases full time. But when they're pulled back into patrol and forced to juggle multiple roles, the response naturally suffers. And that's not fair to them. And because of that, families feel the gaps. So what I see here is that when that missing persons unit is in full effect and they're able to only focus on missing person cases, we really saw, and you would hear it from families, that this was the best thing that has happened to the Navajo Nation. So I really like to advocate that we really need this missing persons unit to be in full effect again, where that's what they solely focus on, is in these missing person cases for the Navajo Nation. Since it's sort of disbanded, I feel like that's where we're getting more calls lately. So I hope that everybody here can advocate for that missing persons unit to be in full effect again, because we see it suffering now. The other part of it is we've started building stronger relationships with Farmington PD, San Juan County Sheriff's Office, and Southern Ute Tribe, where we've had monthly meetings with them this last quarter. So going into 2026, we're gonna go into quarterly meetings with them so that we can all stay on the same page of what's happening with our missing relatives, what 4C K9 SAR is hearing on the ground from families still. Where do we still have the gaps? But building that strong relationship with Farmington PD, San Juan County Sheriff, and Southern Ute Tribe, we still have a missing link. We still have the Navajo PD missing in a lot of these conversations. So we really need to figure out a way, how do we get them to the table in all of these, because they're a missing piece in all of this. And until we can get them to that table, it's going to be really hard to keep moving forward because we need them. Next is building shared understanding of the turquoise alert. So what we're seeing, hearing on the ground, officers and families both need clear training and education. Some have it, some don't. So I'm trying to figure out, talking to our officers, whether it's local, whether it's county, whether it's tribal, has training been consistent with them, in regards to the New Mexico turquoise alert, the Arizona turquoise alert? Is the criteria differences creating confusion? Families don't understand the alert, when the alert applies, what it's designed for, and why it's not used for every case. Is there fear of overeducating the public for using the turquoise alert? But the alert's purpose is simple, and it's to bring relatives home. So families don't always know what the alert is for, and officers may be unsure about the criteria or the workflow. And sometimes we hesitate to educate families because we don't want the alert abused. But education doesn't weaken this system. It's supposed to strengthen our ability to use the alert the way it was intended. So what I'm seeing now is there needs to be more education on this alert. So what we started doing is, as we've been increasing our collaboration with, like, for example, Farmington PD, San Juan County Sheriff, and the Southern Ute Tribe, we're asking them how well they understand the turquoise alert. And because we have a lot of missing person flyers going out, why are most of these not qualifying for a turquoise alert? And are we educating families why it doesn't qualify for a turquoise alert? Because most of these families that call us for a search, I'll ask them, does your missing relative qualify for a turquoise alert? And one of the responses we get back is, what is a turquoise alert? So which is a little surprising to me. So that's one I have there. Also related to the turquoise alert is identifying barriers to alert activation. So we need to understand the real why. Again, I just mentioned earlier, there are many missing reports posted, but few alerts activated, and we don't know why, and that's the problem. So key questions we must investigate are, is the process confusing? Is the New Mexico DPS approval too slow or complex? Is staffing too thin? Is training incomplete? Is it fear of overuse? So without understanding the cause, we can't strengthen the system. This isn't about blame. It's about asking the right questions. And we need to identify the barriers so we can fix them. And again, like I just mentioned earlier, these are questions we have been working with San Juan County Sheriff's Office and the Farmington Police Department. One thing I have on this alert is when can you override a decision? So let's say Farmington PD did the report, but maybe 2 days later, the criteria changes for this person, where now they already had an existing medical condition, but now there's new evidence that came up that they're suicidal. So the criteria actually changes for them. Or now they're in a vehicle. It's been verified that they're in a vehicle. And a lot of this starts meeting the turquoise alert criteria. But if the primary investigating agency still won't put a turquoise alert based off the new information, how can we override that? So if Farmington PD says, no, we're still not going to do the alert. We're still not going to do the alert. Even though you have all this information that qualifies for turquoise alert, we're still not going to do the alert. So how do we override that? How do we go to Navajo PD and say, this is what the situation is and a turquoise alert needs to go out? So that's one example we've really been running into a lot lately, which is why it's really important that we need to get all these key people to the table to go over these examples. Or they're not examples, they're real life situations that have happened, but we're never going to resolve it if we don't get them all to the table. Then what we have here is ensuring families can reach help when they need it. I have these 3 issues because they cannot be separated, because families experience them all at the same time. So, the access must be simple and immediate. If the process is confusing, if the paperwork is long, or if everything requires an in-person visit or only happens during business hours, families simply cannot get the help they need. So a resource is only real if it's reachable. Second, on technology, we all know large parts of the Navajo Nation have no phone signal. So many families may not have working phones. And when our only access point is a phone number or an online form, we are leaving entire communities behind, especially after hours. Third is response time. When a family finally does reach someone, they need a predictable turnaround. So alerts shouldn't depend on a morning shift. Advocacy shouldn't depend on who is on duty. We need a clear 24/7 response standard so families know help is actually coming. Together, these 3 barriers create the biggest access gap our families face. If even one of them fails, the whole system fails the family. If families can't reach help or can't reach it fast enough, then every other part of the system becomes irrelevant. Why this work we do matters. This work is more than a mission. It's our responsibility to families and communities. The land never forgets. It holds every story, every footprint, every unanswered question. We walk alongside families with compassion, skill, and commitment. And true change requires leaders like you. Your voice and decisions are key. We'll keep searching, we'll keep listening, we'll keep reclaiming space because the land never forgets and neither do we. One thing I want to add is we have 9 certified team members. They all have to go through FEMA training. They all have to pass their National Association of Search and Rescue. When they complete that, they do hands-on training with me, which consists of GPS, maps, compass training, radio communications. They have to know how to run incident command. They have to understand cultural sensitivity. They go through mental wellness training. So they go through a lot: lost person theory, search theory, how to understand the work with our canines when we're out in the field. So they go through quite extensive training to be team members, and they come from all over the place. From here in Farmington, Phoenix, Colorado, and Arizona. Our goal of this organization is to keep recruiting and training new people throughout the Navajo Nation so that we have team members spread out through the Navajo Nation. So if I'm based out of Farmington, if I get a call in Tuba City of someone's missing, it's going to take me 2 to 3 hours to get out there. But if I have team members near there, they can get things going. They can get the incident command system set up. They can start working with law enforcement if they're involved in. So that's been one of our main goals with this organization. Second goal, which has also been part of this, is to start helping our own tribal communities form their own search and rescue team. So this past year, we've done a lot with the Blackfeet Nation, where they now have their own search and rescue team. Now they're trying to incorporate horses into the search and rescue team. We've gotten 2 more phone calls this year as well with Lummi Nation up in Washington, and then the Umatilla tribe in Oregon. So they're looking for help. They're both small tribes, but they're trying to figure out how do we be self-sustainable with the missing people we have in our area. So those are 2 goals that will always be ongoing within our organization. And then I'm going to end here. So this is one of our founders, our team captain, Trigger. So I started with Trigger and Search and Rescue in 2016. He started all this. I didn't. I had to make a decision on whether I wanted to do search and rescue or not. But this guy started everything. He was just born to be a SAR dog. And we lost him last year in February of 2024 to cancer. He had a tumor on his right arm, which later he had to have amputated, and then just didn't work out for us. So he was 8 years old. He was certified in lifeline, air scent, and human remains detection. He did over 120 searches in his career, and his career was from 2016 to 2024, and he assisted 110 families. And that's what I have for you all today. I want to thank you all for your time, and just want to open up for any questions anyone may have.
Okay, appreciate it. I appreciate your presentation to the task force and to community representatives who are on the line. I want to see, are there any questions? I don't see any hand raised on the Zoom call. But okay, SHIAJ Delegate Dr. Andy Nez, you have the phone.
Thank you, Chair, and task force members and others, and thank you for allowing me to also listen in on these important meetings. So the first question I have is, I know oftentimes when we talk about the training in certain capacities when it comes to our relatives who are missing, or other circumstances, and I'm just curious, as you were going through the data, if the team is also equipped to supporting our relatives our transgender relatives, and if that's something that is and should be considered, if not. But I'm just kind of curious how how that also works and if that's something that unfortunately has come as part of the data, although it's not recognized in the data. I'm just curious as to how that work and the relationship is supporting a lot of our trans relatives. And then the second thing is I know we had a brief discussion a couple of months ago when we were out in Shipra, or excuse me, no, it was Farmington, and there we kind of just highlighted some areas as far as education and curriculum, and what families can also know about when our students are going to and from school, and what needs to be some of the cultural practices and just simple commands that as Navajo children should be aware of, and if that's something that has been enhanced since then. I'd be interested in, of course, more than happy to help in that endeavor. And then the last thing I think, as far as like the education goes, if you can just briefly state what qualifies as a turquoise alert on behalf of our participants who are listening online, because I'm sure some of them probably reiterated the situation that you came across when you asked families if they qualified for turquoise alert. Thank you, Chair.
Appreciate it, Shiaj. Bernadine, do you have a response?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nez. To your first question, yes, that is part of our data. I just don't have it segregated out. And every search, every call we get, it's always something different that the team needs to familiarize themselves with. And so with that, the team has attended different types of training, especially with SWIC. With memory. Memory always brings on these amazing different people on training, especially the different backgrounds of the relatives we're looking for. I also last month was invited out to Las Vegas, and I had the great opportunity to meet Mr. Lenny Hayes. And so Mr. Hayes and I talked more about putting together some type of training for our LGBTQ community. So he and I are going to be working on that for 2026. Along with that, he has also asked us, what have we done any presentations on mental wellness? And he'd really like for us to put something together because he wants to better understand, how are we and our team members handling all this, and how do we keep moving forward. So that was two things we're working on with Mr. Hayes. So that'll be coming up in 2026. To your second question on the education piece, yes, I would still love to collaborate and pick your brain on a few things, get some suggestions and ideas for you. We've just done a lot of work and conversation with Mr. Chuck Foster, Dr. Chuck Foster, with Title VI programs. I just had a meeting with like 40 of them last month on trying to build a curriculum, but we're going to have to start small, figure out where can we start this, what school can we start this at, and how do we expand it from there. So that's where we're at on the education piece of it. But yes, definitely I would like to touch base with you more on that, Dr. Nez. As for the turquoise alert, so oh shoot, that's Arizona. Let's see, let me get this one up. So the New Mexico turquoise alert, their criteria is they are an enrolled member of a recognized Indian tribe. They in imminent danger? And I feel that that's one of the areas we get stuck on because of the families that have been asked these questions. One thing is some families said it was a little intimidating when you're asked, is your relative in imminent danger? Because they didn't really understand what that word meant. And then there were some relatives that just said, I was like, hey, did your relative qualify for the turquoise alert when you did your missing person report? And quite a few of them came back with the response of, what is a turquoise alert? I didn't know what that was, and it wasn't explained to me. So the individual must be under the age of 65. They have to have tribal affiliation. They had to have gone missing under unexplained or suspicious circumstances. Under endangerment, law enforcement must determine the person is in danger, which can be due to their health, mental or physical disability, their environment, or other factors. And the investigating law enforcement agency must have already used its available local resources before issuing the alert. So I hope that answers all your questions, Dr. Nez.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it, Bernadine. So I do want some clarification. There are two different turquoise alerts. One was approved through the New Mexico legislator, and that has different requirements. And the Arizona turquoise alert is what we're finding out. I sit on the Arizona Governor's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Task Force. That is actually not just specifically for Indigenous or Native American tribal members. It includes relatives who who do not meet the criteria of an Amber Alert, Silver Alert, Brittany Alert. So it's kind of more of a catch-all in Arizona. And we have been notified from a family, a Navajo family, that they are concerned that their daughter was not, an Arizona turquoise alert was not issued. And so we'll be following up with the Arizona um, State Police. And currently the Arizona Missing and Murdered Indigenous people are having listening sessions. And so yesterday there was some additional concerns that were raised by community members on how the Arizona Turquoise Alert is coordinated in a follow-up. They did not have a specific individual identified with Navajo Nation. And so as a chair, I think it's been about 2 or 3 months, we requested from Navajo Nation public safety on who would be that individual who would be the point of contact. And we're waiting for Deputy Police Chief Williams to formalize and provide the listing on who we can, as a task force, recommend to our partners will be the official point of contact for Navajo Nation Division of Public Safety when it comes to areas like incorporating the alert. So Navajo Nation, we also have an alert system that our advocates have supported. And so a question would be, and my hope is that everyone on the call has access to the text for missing persons on Navajo Nation. You text Navajo Nation to 888-777. And this is also a challenge with consistency because I have not received an alert since. I mean, we were referring to our alert because we were concerned about the number of juveniles that were being reported missing. If someone on the call, I'm trying to look on the last time I received an alert. So it's been maybe a month. And we know that there's been missing family members or missing relatives since then. So yes, I appreciate that there has to be consistency from Navajo Nation. And we've been patiently waiting for Division of Public Safety to provide that guidance through the Tribal Community Response Plan. But I think collectively through this task force, we could move forward that plan and legislate using the lens of this report and what we're hearing from the people. So appreciate that comment. I'm going to go to Chelsea. And really quick, Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Tatiana.
I just want to let the task force group know that we were given information by Detective Begay, who did inform us that she has been pulled from her original duties as running the missing persons unit, the missing persons alert as well. She's been working on other cases, so whenever we get a chance to talk with an NPD, I just like to ask them why she was pulled from this critical work, because of that, this alert system hasn't been updated. So I just want to let task force know about that.
Okay, thank you for that update. So Yolanda, Azua with the president's office, can you give us some insight to the alerts and who's the point of contact for Navajo Nation? Did Yolanda drop off the call?
She. Yeah, she just jumped off.
Malcolm Shiash with criminal investigations. Do you have, would you know who is the point of contact for the Division of Public Safety when it comes to alerts?
Yeah, that would be the detectives that are assigned to this task force. But I'll reach out to the deputy chief and ask him that you all are looking for that information.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Web. Okay, and so what we'll do is since this meeting's being recorded, if staff can send us what was requested from this meeting, and then we could follow up with a memo to the president's office to get a response to the questions. So we'll move forward to Chelsea. Chelsea, Shada, you have the floor.
Good morning. Keshe, koton andawakia. Hot Chelsea sisu electiona. Hot ayaho quit up donashi quit awan chatle. Good morning, my relatives, friends, and family. My name is Chelsea Sisua, and I'm with Southwest Indigenous Women's Coalition. I just introduced myself in Zuni, Shiwit Matbenawe. I am mustard seed from the earth, as well as a Badger child. I would just like to just say a few comments here. Thank you, Bernadine and Four Corners Search and Rescue, for everything that you have done for our community and the surrounding communities. Your dedication and support is not going unnoticed at all. And I follow you guys and I pray for you guys and just hopes that we bring all our relatives home. Secondly, as we were speaking about alerts, I do want to acknowledge today would have been Ashlyn Mike's 21st birthday. From her mother, Pamela Foster, she is asking friends and family and those in her support to kindly, if you can, celebrate her birthday with us and make a spaghetti dish. That was her favorite meal. Along those lines, I mean, these alerts are very, very important to our people. We are grateful that they are there. We are making some progress, but again, I can definitely side with how are these alerts being distributed. I know there was an alert a few weeks ago, and then a couple of months ago for a non-Indigenous, actually both non-Indigenous children who were safely found, which was great. However, I feel that we definitely need to bring that awareness to our communities as well as the urban area communities. As for in Arizona, it was created under the Emily Pike situation. And I still continue to see, postings from our local tribal police departments on runaways and if you've seen certain people. So thank you. Alahkwa. I just wanted to make those comments.
Appreciate you, Shada, and grounding us that today we would have celebrated Ashlyn's 21st birthday, and if in support of the family to provide consider making a spaghetti dinner tonight or soon, and think about the life and legacy of Ash and Mike, and how the federal Ash and Mike Amber Alert in Indian country is being deployed out here on Navajo Nation. And it is something that we keep the Division of Public Safety accountable. They have received ample funding, and we have requested for public education. So it looks like we haven't received a text from the system in, I would say, at least 3 weeks. So there is some challenges there. Tatiana, did you find that case where we had a missing Navajo juvenile?
Yes.
If you could pull that up and share on the Zoom. I get a daily update, like a Google alert on missing and murdered relatives. And so there is, as a task force, we stay up to date with our advocates, and we're trying to get public safety to stay current and provide updates on some of the challenges, or if there's an advocate assigned or who's assigned to what case. And that's why we're developing that database with Navajo Technical University, because we want to put that information out there for the family so they would know the status of their case. So here is, we're sharing on our screen. I think this was sent out just, I don't know, within the last week. So Tatiana, did you want to just give a high level overview, or how do you want to move forward?
With the case that's showing up right here.
Yeah.
I didn't read much into the case, but I did see this across my Facebook page a couple days ago. I just found out about this a couple days ago. But this Navajo teen, her name, she's a 14-year-old named
Nevaeh.
Nevaeh Alessandro Campos. She went missing within the Glendale, Phoenix area. And for some odd reason, her case did not qualify for a turquoise alert. And there are family members, there's friends, families who are advocating to asking why her case has not been put on the Amber Alert system. So this is just something that the task force wanted to share with some of the issues that are happening when it comes to the turquoise alert system that were meant to address cases like these.
Right. So we'll reach out and see if the family has an advocate, or see if the mom wants to speak to the task force about some of her challenges reporting Nevaeh's case. There was, according to this article, the involvement of Navajo Nation, I believe it's the Division for Children and Family Services. And so they were able to be involved and help locate. And so her aunt was able to pick her up. So and that's what we see as families will, they're migrating. And so there has to be a system. And that's why the tribal community response plan is so important, because all of these programs should know what is their role when there's a missing relative. And if they're playing a part, then they should be contributing and keeping, there should at least be a response plan, and everybody that is notified. So go ahead.
But
I think this is where it's really critical that we do get the tribal community response plan finalized, and that we do get input from all the task force members, and that includes our task force members who are boots on the ground along with our law enforcement, because this is a case that could have been handled more professionally if we just had that plan laid out. So I think it's really important that everyone has an input with the tribal community response plan, and we get this finalized as soon as possible.
Right. So I'm going to go to Bernadette.
Delegate
Go ahead.
Crotty. So what I'm seeing now lately is exactly this, and it's two things. Again, we need to ask the questions. why are alerts not going out? Who's looking at the statistics? And this is what I asked at the beginning of the year when this turquoise alert went out. Who's going to keep stats? Because we're going to come to this where 50 people went missing, but only 2 alerts went out. Why? What's going on with it? And the second part of it is it going to come to us requesting, can I override a law enforcement agency? So I want to override Farmington PD because this young girl definitely qualifies for the turquoise alert, but they won't do it. So how can we override that to somebody else?
So appreciate the question. Shade, was it a Navajo relative missing from Farmington?
No, I'm just giving them an example, but if you want a
Well, what
real
I'm
life
saying is,
example,
yeah, but no. Because what I'm saying is we have our own alert system here on Navajo and we don't have to, we could, what the states do is there's a lot of politics. Sometimes it's just political theater, but with everyone here on the call, we can re-examine how Navajo Nation is issuing out their alerts and meet the needs of our families and those who are helping recover our missing persons. So we
yep.
could have a more robust system, and that's why we've invested in the missing and murdered in a relatives database, because other databases have their own requirements, where our database will meet the needs of the families, whether it's public facing and building up how division of public safety, or then there's going to be 2 parts of it. So and we had an in-person conversation, but that's why it's critical that we're now, as folks join and learn more about the work that we're doing, we have a resource page on the Navajo Nation Council website under missing and murdered and their relatives under the committee. So and we work with the coalition. And so we want to partner and strengthen. So all of your recommendations today will go into our collective mission, and we'll collectively help each other. Okay, can you mute that individual? And then I want to go to Renee. Shalwet, you had a question?
Yes, it did actually. It was more geared to Bernadine and about because she has spoken about how they were also collecting data on LGBTQ Two-Spirit plus people. I think really the issue collectively and overall is how is the data being collected? Oftentimes these data are I think the biggest issue at hand is how officials are collecting this data like police reports. Often they don't track gender identity very well. And so when that's not being actually collected correctly, the actual numbers are much higher than what is being shown in data, which means that data that is there, it's really making LGBTQ people victims more visible. So I just wanted to ask Bernadine, like how is she collecting the data and how is her intake form look when collecting these data? Because again, I think my questions over the past few weeks were that we needed to create a system where LGBTQ people are included in data because it is very important that we're also a part of the whole scheme of it all. Because when it comes to the MMIP crisis, trans women of color are being killed at very high alarming rates, and yet we don't talk about it. We don't share the stories about it. I've had good friends who were killed 20 years ago, and yet still their murders have gone unsolved. And so really, I think that was my question.
Okay, appreciate it. Bernadine, do you have any insight?
Yes. So the information we're gathering is all in regards to the missing relative. It's information that is in relation to I mean, like basic information you see on the flyer: height, weight, what were they wearing last. But our information goes deeper into that on um, what was going on with the person, who were they with last, what were the behavior. So I'm finding out information that's going to help us narrow down an area to search. I'm finding out information that assists with our canines. So we're looking at a lot of behavior patterns. But as we sit in these living rooms or kitchens or on the phone call with families, you get the whole story. You're going to get it from beginning to end. That's the information I get. So their story could be 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but they're telling me everything about the missing person. So that's the information I'm gathering in all these cases. So I'll still ask the main questions I need asked, which is usually not the same questions asked by law enforcement, because I'll get a briefing from an officer if there is one involved on what he or she asks the family. And then I go back and ask family other questions that weren't asked. And that's where you start getting more details of, well, he or she started hanging out with these people, and this is where these people hang out. And so that's where we kind of get more of the information. But um, in my data that you just saw in the impact, that's just part of data. That's my basic stats there. So out of the men and women you saw, yes, there are LGBTQ among those men and women. I just don't have it broken out that way. So, but in regards to this, when we did speak with Lenny Hayes really wants to sit down and learn more about, of our data, how many of them really fall into the LGBTQ community. And we're going to discuss more about that. But my data is more related to what happened before the person went missing, what happened a month before they went missing, so we can kind of narrow down ideas on where they could have possibly went, where they were hanging out last, who the people they hang out with, where they hang out. So that's what most of my information is in regards to that. I hope that answers your question, Renee.
It does, yeah. It definitely it really it shows, for lack of a better word, the lack of data that's being collected. Because I think really asking these dire questions like how they identify, who did how they like really like, when it comes to a trans woman of color, you want to really specify that they identified as trans, or if the family is if they're open to their family. I think oftentimes families that are unaware of someone's sexual orientation or gender identity, they often get misgendered as whom they were born and raised as for instance, a trans woman being raised as a boy and being told that they're going by their given name. I think that really goes against the identities and the existence of trans women of color, because again, you don't want to misgender a trans woman even though they've been living in the as a trans woman for most of their life. I think that type of data needs to be collected, and it's very vital. And also, when you have these pictures of their boy pictures, it really goes against and discriminates trans people as a whole. And I've been talking about how data again is very important in collecting those specific information, and not giving out wrong information. And it's a very fine line between what the family will share and say if someone is not totally out 100% to the whole world. Again, there's a fine line between that, and that's where language becomes very important in giving creating these flyers. And yeah, it's a very complex issue that I think all everyone at a tribal level needs to understand and be aware of when it comes to identifying someone or not wanting to misgender somebody, just the whole cultural competency of the trans community. It's very important. And I have worked with Lenny. Lenny is an awesome person. We are good people. We've worked together. We've talked on a lot of panels and conferences. So I know Lenny very well. So he's also a very good person. He knows a lot of information when it comes to violence against boys and that whole crisis there as well. Yeah, but again, I think data is very important when it comes to the LGBT community, because again, we don't want to be pushed in a corner and become invisible. but yet we're experiencing so much violence that no one's really looking at it and giving a care about it.
Yep, you're definitely right, Renee. And a big part of it needs to happen on law enforcement side because when law enforcement does the police report, they're going based off because I asked them, how are you putting information together if they're transgender? And they said, we're just going off what their driver's license says. He goes, that's the information we're putting out there. And when you put this report into, this is actually one of the goals on our New Mexico DOJ MMIP task force is how do we put in there if they're transgender? Right now, that's really difficult because NCIC is actually run by the federal government, and there's no place to actually say that this person's transgender. The only thing they can do right now is put notes in there. So I do hear from some officers who say, yeah, if this is the info family gives us, we put it in our notes for it. But other than that, they base everything off the what it says on the driver's license. So there definitely still has more education and advocating that needs to happen.
Yeah, that is true. It's very it's a lot. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, great to meet you, Renee. We'll have to talk more.
Likewise, of course, yes.
Appreciate it. I do see, it looks like Becky Martinez. Sorry, I muted myself, Becky. Becky, Shadid, can you introduce yourself to the task force and you could ask your question.
Yeah, Becky Martinez Chinchia. As change Twitter Genie by Shishi Nahabani dash another do Nanish Edge dash Che. I na use it that na shadow um it's Seha Gordon Flybrook. I don't know how to say it correctly in Navajo. But yes, I am happy to meet in the meeting with you all today. I do have a question about the people that are going missing from the border towns, like Ashley Collins, Ramus Yazzie, Valma Pinto, and my brother included, Calvin Willie Martinez. What are we doing about updating the list of the Navajo Nation, of getting these Navajo people on this missing persons list? Because right now they are not included in any missing persons list for the Navajo Nation. They are excluded as Navajo Nation members, and I think that's unfair, and it also gives us like kind of it it doesn't give them a voice like they need to have as well. So it's kind of like they've just been pushed under the rug, and I don't feel that's correct for our nation to exclude tribal members from a missing person flyer. I've discussed this with many people, but I know we've had turnover in leadership through the years, but where has the progress come in getting this flyer out for these people? I may ask, please, respectfully.
I appreciate it, Shade. And as a task force, we have a similar request to Navajo Nation Department of Public Safety Police Department, because they are the creators of the flyer. We've requested, so like Yolanda Azua is President Nygren's representative on these issues. Has she jumped back on? We have a number of issues that we've asked Ms. Azua to follow up on, and this is one of the issues. According to the police department, their position is the flyer they create, and in their decision making, there's no law that states they have to do this. They only put individuals that have been reported within their jurisdiction, even though we have, agreements and we've asked them to include all of our missing relatives. They have declined that request. So, and we've asked for public safety PIO to join the calls, to join us in these conversations so that we understand the dynamics and can support each other. And that is the lack of action from the executive branch. So internally, there is a lack of action from the executive branch on the recommendations from the task force and the accountability. So we'll share some, I think we should just share that memo or that list publicly, or it could just be on the page on what are some outstanding requests that we have from executive, which includes the tribal community response plan. So in our capacity as a task force, we've asked for volunteers who can create that flyer. And so we're still waiting to see if someone has that capacity because we would want to include all of our relatives. I just recently got a request from our sister partners in Oklahoma, and there was a missing Navajo man reported, I think in the 1960s. They sent me the newspaper article, I believe, and he's a NamUs, but is not on our flyer because it's not within the jurisdiction of Navajo Nation, which doesn't make sense to me as a delegate or chair or fund, how we fund and appropriate. So that's why we want public safety PD to be accountable and publicly give a response and say what are some flexibilities that they could do to develop a flyer that meets the need of the community members. So I hope that provides some clarification, and we'll get better as a task force to let everyone know what, are the current needs and what our requests are, and accountability on who's supposed to respond and if they're responding or they're not. And I track that myself, but we'll create a way to publicly provide that. Does that help, Becky?
Oh, it helps. It also gives me clarification to know that you guys haven't given up on it because I did feel like that they kind of just gave up on it. So I was just I haven't been in one of the meetings in a long time. I've been refraining from advocating, but I know my heart isn't advocating, so I'm stepping back in just to let you guys know, I'm still here.
Oh, we understand, and each of us, and it's good that you step back knowing what works for you and how, between your mental health, your capacity, and that's why through this circle of relatives, we support one another. And like for myself, I've had to step back from physical searches or working with all of the families because we've onboarded, advocates and now supporting 49 or K9, Four Corners K9 Search and Rescue. I was really depending on Navajo Nation Department of Emergency Management, and there's only two full-time employees for across Navajo Nation. So something that we can do as relatives and citizens is ask for chapter supporting resolutions. And we could see if we could get a template out to everyone. And I feel at this time the people should have direct voice in voting on the budget issues, and that could be something we consider if we're going to set aside funding, Navajo Nation funding for missing and murdered and their relatives, that we have a comprehensive flyer, and that's developed with other partners, not just Navajo Nation Police Department. Okay, so thank you for that. And we'll move on. So Shade Salatsa, you have your hand raised?
Yes, Delegate Crotty. I wanted to make a recommendation since we're not seeing immediate movement from our PD regarding this issue. We also have the option to use the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission and their office. I think that many of our families who are impacted have rights, and they could be classified under the services provided by the Human Rights Commission and Office. They have a study that they've done on missing persons, and especially in border towns and urban cities. And they've also been collecting information on the ICE raids and any Navajos who are impacted in that. So I think we can get probably the commission to help with additional flyers, help with additional outreach, because they are under the legislative branch, and that could be something that we can ask the speaker and the council for support on. Thank you.
Yes, so we have made the request to the Human Rights Office. They do have some cases, and maybe that could be a presentation to the public for the office to present. Let's put that on our December agenda and identify from their office who will be joining the calls, and we could possibly amend uh, our and add an individual from the Human Rights Office or Commission. I know they're part of the Dine Action Plan, and I'm not sure how active they are under that scope. So thank you for that request. I will help us increase our capacity here. Okay, any other questions or for Bernadine on her presentation? Okay, so an update from Malcolm is from Navajo Nation Deputy Chief of Police Williams. Officer Begay is still the point of contact for missing persons notifications. The missing persons unit is working on a case right now. So Malcolm, if you could echo.
I'm going to the conference room.
Okay, let's Malcolm, if you could just help, and we'll send this memo to Yolanda and to Public Safety, that if we could get something in writing, because we will want to share that with our partners and other, especially when we start talking about the alerts and other areas. Okay, Bernadine left her contact in the chat and is a member of the New Mexico Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Task Force. So I appreciate that and our recommendation. And it looks like, okay. Oh, the human rights is not under DAP. Sorry about that. That's government development. So we'll work with Mr. Gorman at Human Rights and work on amending this resolution so that we have more flexibility under the rules and that we have individuals. Because what we haven't had consistently is someone from the office of the president, vice president on the calls, a representative from judicial branch. Miss Billy is no longer, we would need to update the Navajo Nation. So they need to send us a letter, the Navajo Nation Police Department, on who's a rep. Chief prosecutor needs to update their representative because they're not attending. And the public defender's office would need to let us know if they have the capacity to continue or if they want to be removed, because I know they have a lot of capacities issues, and to update the Department of Criminal Investigation, because we still have Mr. Michael Henderson, who is now the division director. So we'll need updated letters, and then we'll work on updates on the community representatives. Okay, any other questions for Bernadine and her team? Okay, not hearing any. So again, just for the record, we were unable to meet quorum today because of the veto on virtual options for Navajo Nation committees. This is a task force that is established under the Nabakiatit Committee. We are doing a policy legal review of the veto, and we'll work on amending the resolution that created this task force so that we have more flexibility and we have the ability to continue to have community representation on the task force and be members of the task force. So appreciate all of your recommendations. I just want to go quickly to the chat. Looks like I got everyone's chat. If there's no other questions, for the next meeting, or we were also going to do a report on the tribal community response plan. Tatiana, do you want to give a quick update on where we're at with that plan?
Yes, so the tribal community response plan was sent out to all task force members. I'm trying to pull it up right now. But it was sent to everybody to give their input, to give feedback, and if they wanted to edit any of their sections, they are still able to. I did make the request to have all their feedback turned in by last week, Thursday, but we can extend it because I know we're all taking care of other initiatives right now. Let me try and share my screen on what the tribal community response plan draft looks like right now. Okay, so I did try and keep this close to what the our report was to the fall session for Navigation Council, just so that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. So I'm going to scroll down, just go through it really quickly. We have the introduction page, just
Can you
kind of,
make it larger?
yeah. There we go. Okay, so we have the introduction page, just kind of telling people what the NMDR task force is, how we were established, what our goals and initiatives are. We have some fun photos that we've taken. The top one is when we had a recognition at one of the rodeo events with the families of missing people. Then we also have the time when we had the training for Kate, child abduction training exercises at NDOT going down. We have introduction of task force members who joined the call or on the task force in general. And if you don't see your logo on here, let me know, because then we can just add you on there quickly. And then we're going into the law enforcement section for the tribal community response plan. So this summary here is from the previous TCRP. So it's not anything that law enforcement sent in. This is just something that was from the previous one from 2022. So it was just copy and paste on there. And just go down.
There's the one that she.
Let's see here. Give me one. Okay, communications. Okay, then we go into the victim services guidelines for missing persons cases. This was provided to us by UNHS and Northern Arizona Victim Services. That I need to edit that out. This is what they gave to us, and it was just copy paste in there. I didn't edit anything. And we also have their contact information. Then we go down into the media and public communications response section that was worked on by Renee and myself. So we have the toolkit structure, the do's and don'ts when we're reporting a missing person. And each of these sections do have kind of like templates that people can use. So they don't have to kind of struggle on creating these press release templates or the social media templates. It's all in there.
Okay, Tati, I know it's a long document.
It's a long document.
So what we're do is, if you could just send out the link and just, this is a courtesy update to folks who were gonna contribute. So we'll legislate it, knowing that it's not perfect, because not everybody has met the deadline, but it also takes time to legislate. So hopefully by then, we'll have a document that works well. And if behavioral health can review it, just to make sure if you have any recommendations, that would be great. You could work with Tati directly on that.
Okay.
And Delegate Dr. Andy Nez asked if you received his update.
Yes, I just messaged him back. I am sorry about that, Delegate Dr. Nez. Yes, I did add in your edits and recommendations into the template. The only part that I didn't add in was the intro and the conclusion for law enforcement part, because I feel like that should be their responsibility to do. But if we don't get any feedback from them, then I can take care of that as well.
Okay, appreciate it. So this is a critical document. The TRC, it comes from some of the federal laws like the Savannahs Act, the Not Invisible Act. We have other tribal nations who have consistently updated their community response plan. So we think it's critical so that there's consistency with the Navajo Nation and complements the work that the families and advocates are doing on the ground so that we could see that mirrored with Navajo Nation executive programs. I think from these conversations and developing the database, we'll be able to know where there's gaps of communication and collaboration and what happens to some of these cases and not necessarily having to know all of the bits and pieces, but just like case management to make sure that the families feel supported. Appreciate that update, Renee, that you'll have that by the end of the day. I'm just trying to do it for the chat real quick. So Zoom. Cindy, did you want to go on the record? You could have the floor right now. Cindy? Is she unmuted? It's Zoom user.
Let me try to unmute her.
Hey, Cindy? She might have some audio issues, so I'll read her chat. It says, hello, Cindy Hayes. Oh, Cindy, we could hear you.
Okay. Hi.
Okay, we can hear you, Cindy. Yes, you have the floor.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cindy Hayes. I didn't know you guys had the meeting. I was informed by Andrea, and I'm glad she let me in on it. It's always refreshing to be able to kind of get more information, hear more questions that probably I needed answers to. But my brother Leon Hayes went missing back in 2022. They found his remains. They found only one remain. They did only one search, and we don't have any answers, but we were able to put him to rest. But my question was, do we have any law enforcement that participates, that is able to maybe answer some of these questions for us, and we can get their input as far as maybe their ideas or what they're doing to help us as families? And then as far as like the LGBTQ and trans brothers and sisters that we have that are missing, if they're going by what's on the driver's license, which I know they have to, go a certain way, but if they know that that person isn't represented the way they live their lifestyle, are they able to make sure that we as a community know that this person is missing and this is how they look, rather than what's on their driver's license? Or if there's anything being done about that. Because I know we did have a few that had popped up that I remember where I seen the posters, and then I also seen, family and friends posting, and, it was like night and day, you're trying to look for somebody and it's not matching up. But those were the questions that I had. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Cindy. Yes, we had a great, so our last session, and we're trying to put these more in the public live stream. But the last session, we had a great training from Renee on gender identity and how important and vital that is in this conversation in recognizing the violence towards our relatives and how they need to be part of the data and the discussion. So that is online it could be found on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And it'll be under missing and murdered in their relatives.
Yeah, it's going to be labeled under missing murdered relatives.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
And Tati will put it in the chat. And so that is one of our critical areas that we continue to advocate for and are requesting, of course, like law enforcement training. We do have Navajo Nation criminal investigator on the line. But for this task force, when it comes to law enforcement, we're supposed to have a representative from Navajo Nation Police Department on the line. In addition to criminal investigators, and so that they're all clear on what are the issues. We have another weekly call that we were consistently getting Navajo Nation Public Safety on the call. We have seen that in October that has decreased. Their attendance have decreased off of those Tuesday calls. But what we would like to share with you as a family member and advocate is to make sure you have an idea of we have 8 areas for the task force to move forward on, and how those areas, how we're keeping Navajo Nation accountable. So, Tatiana, you're more of the know where everything's at for the public. If you could just provide that link also to Cindy so she could see the role and responsibility of the task force. And we're also going to be opening up for more community representatives. And if you're interested, Cindy, we could have a call and see what that capacity looks like, because we're trying to keep the ability for families and for relatives to call in and be part of the task force to help us advocate for our families. Okay. So there's a few links that were provided in the chat, so I appreciate that update. Cindy, do you have an advocate that's helping? Do you have someone from the Utah Navajo Health Service who's reached out as an advocate for you? We could follow up and just see if it's been offered, because sometimes the families, depending on where they're at on, and then understanding what an advocate can do, we could see if the family has, that's something we asked from Detective Begay in her reporting, is an advocate, are the advocates not being referred, but information being offered so that the families know that the support is out there.
I thought we assigned that to someone as well, getting the advocate listing together.
Yeah, so that's why I think publicly we should say this is all of the requests that we've made to the office of the president, vice president, and we've been waiting months for a response. And we've invited them to come onto our meetings and provide reports and try to have done things as transparent as possible. So I did use the budget season to keep some of these programs accountable, so I could go back and let the team know what is in there as like legislative concerns, and they could move on to like conditions of appropriation. Okay, so yes, Vanjie's amazing and is consistently on the calls with us. We're trying to secure some additional funding for the work that Vanjie's doing with the families. But we'll follow up with Utah Navajo, because they are funded to help families in the Utah and New Mexico side. If you're from Arizona and feel more comfortable, we have Northern Arizona Victim Witness Services, and they can also provide advocates to the family. So we'll get that information if you want to send that directly to Tatiana, or we could reach out to Vanjie and get your information. We are hoping and talking about Salatsa and Vanjie and Zanaba will be working on supporting what we're calling like healing circles or the family component. Salatsa, if you're still on the call, could you just give us a glimpse on what was some of the initiatives that the group was going to focus on to help support the families?
Yes, Delegate Crotty. We just got this assignment last week and we're planning to meet this Friday together. And the assignment for clarification was to develop a victim advocacy directory so that we can pull all that information together and consolidate it for our victim advocates. I think it's a part of the logic model, and that's the only thing we're tasked to right now.
Okay, is there any updates from the Healing Circle initiative that we spoke about a few months ago?
No, that funding did not come through, so we never were able to get it off the ground, but there are partners, nonprofits that started their own healing circles and are continuing to do that.
Okay, we could reach out and maybe that's something behavioral health can help us with in some of your presentations or developing safe spaces for families to gather and where it's not just providing testimony, but where they could gather and do something collectively to help, so they don't feel isolated. And we've done that a lot with victims of violence and too. And so they just want a space where people understand what they're going through. And it's not necessarily to get updates on the case, but they just want to feel seen and heard. And some of them have said like creative ideas or like a, a cooking or, not a cooking, like a cookout or something. So if that's something that you could help us with through behavioral health and help sponsor some of them, that would be great.
Okay, well, I do would like to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
The Bay Area Health does, let's say, time to time have talking circles. And the
Okay.
next one is in December, and I'll let Tatiana know when the official date and flyer is sent out.
Perfect. Those are the exact kind of collaboration we're looking for. And it gives you a heads up too in terms of who would participate and how they would feel welcomed. And I like getting suggestions directly from the family. So like as a New Mexico State Task Force, we're gonna host a holiday celebration. So lots of, do you remember, I gotta pull up my flyer, but we had a good turnout last year in Albuquerque, and this year it's gonna be closer. I would have to look at the flyer, or maybe this is a good time for New Mexico. Let me see if she's still on the call. Oh, I think New Mexico DOJ got off the call, but so lots of do you happen to know when that holiday gathering is gonna happen?
Yes, let me pull it up real quickly. Hold on.
Have we gotten the flyer for that?
Which one?
For
Sorry.
the New Mexico MMIP task force, we're having a holiday event for surviving
It's
families.
on December
No, I haven't
6th,
received
Delegate Crotty.
Thank you, Bernadine, December 6th. And the location?
At Upper Fruitland Chapter House from 4 to 7 p.m.
Viga, thank you. Appreciate it. So it'll be at Upper Fruitland. We requested in the Four Corners. So I'm glad Upper Fruitland is able to host. I know they wanted to host an event for like May 5th. So they're really an active chapter that wants to be part of the communication and collaboration, because collectively we have a wealth of knowledge and we just need Navajo Nation programs to find a way to work with non-Navajo programs. I think that's always the challenge. Like they want an MOU and I'm like, can we just have an informal conversation? So that's what I have. Anything else before we start wrapping up this meeting? Go ahead,
Yes, so there's some talking circles upcoming is November 19 and December 10.
Okay.
And one in January. And once I get more information, I'll let Tatiana know.
Okay, and they're gonna be located here in Winter Rock?
I'll confirm that as soon
Okay.
as I can.
Sure, and just let us know, because and at one point during COVID, there was a lot of good information provided on your Facebook. So if you could let us know those links, and maybe this is a good time to come together and just do some awareness. I know I'm getting a lot of calls because it's Native American Native American Heritage Month, and just looking at some of the issues, like culturally, how are we sustaining ourselves through all of, this violence occurs, so how do we balance that out? I think that would be really good for a lot of people, especially as the holidays come up. And there's been a lot of stress because of, the SNAP issues. We have stress here in the legislative branch because 28 of our employees are going to get laid off. So I think it would be good just to have some online support and just remind us to stay grounded in and the teachings that have strengthened us throughout all of these years. Shanella, I see your hand is up. Laurel, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to just a little bit back to the TCRP. I know you're asking for recommendations on edits to that document, but I just want to highlight that between the executive, what's stated in the executive order and the TCRP that we are editing, we should also be working on edits to that executive order since those two documents contradict each other. That was my only recommendation.
Okay, appreciate that. Dapti, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, appreciate it. We got that. So Bernadine did put the reminder in the chat. So it looks, Bernadine, if you could provide a flyer for the New Mexico Department of Public Safety hosting a Missing in New Mexico event. Do you know where that's going to be located?
The Missing in New Mexico event?
Yes.
That is actually I'll put the info in the chat.
Okay, and what we'll do is we'll use the council's Facebook to put these flyers out, and if you could also include the Arizona MMIP task force listening sessions. So they had one yesterday, and it's good to know because I think there's some misinformation about funding Navajo Nation received for Operation Rainbow Bridge. And Chanela, if you weren't on the call, there was a lot of discussion regarding transportation of relatives during that time. And I just we'll just work together on an Operation Rainbow Bridge. Judge, if we could, I think Department of Health has someone who monitors that, and the Division for Children and Family Services. So the question they asked me is like, what is the status of Operation Rainbow Bridge? And so we just need to get some more additional information out there. Appreciate it. And it looks like Missing in New Mexico, that's going to be hosted in Santa Fe. So that also could be, a travel expense to families. So maybe what we should start doing here is families, if they want, and working with the families, how they want to provide information about their cases. So we meet them where they're at. That was a suggestion from the advocates. So they don't feel like they have to go to a certain event, but we continuously reach out and create an environment to work with them. And if you have a space like that at behavioral health, like to meet with families, that would be nice. Like instead of meeting in a conference room where it can be, a little intimidating and it's not trauma informed. If there's a space where we have a family, we could work with Tatiana to at least coordinate that space to talk with the family and have a counselor there to help support them.
Okay.
All right, appreciate it. All right, small but mighty group with getting more relatives help. The update from Salatza is Operation Rainbow Bridge has stood down, no longer operational. So we could get out a report and Salatza, if we could get a report and send that to the Arizona governor's MMIP coordinator, Valora, so that they have the official closeout from Operation Rainbow Bridge, as there was testimony provided yesterday regarding, and NDOH is the lead. So Shiaj, if you could ask your team members at Department of Health to send the closeout report from Operation Rainbow Bridge to the Arizona governor. They have an Indian Affairs department or office, and Valora is the lead for MMIW. Yeah, ever since First Lady Jasmine Nigrin stepped down or resigned, we haven't had anybody on the task force from executive. And we have one more year to finalize, and our focus is going to be missing juveniles in the system. More of ICWA and accountability on all of these entities that are serving our children. We're going to move that forward. Go ahead, Mark.
Just a quick comment regarding the talking circle.
Uh-huh.
So the location will all be at Navajo Nation Museum,
Okay.
Europe,
Okay.
and it's in collaboration with Good Health and Wellness and Indian Country.
Yeah. Just send us the flyer. You guys make good flyers, and we could also put that out to our networks. Because a lot of times families are just learning about the work we're doing. Sometimes it could be very policy focused, funding focused. And so Salatza and her team are going to help us just make sure how we communicate with families, because there are times when they want to help, and then there's times where they need to step away for a moment. So we just want to be we want to be that consistency for the movement and integrated into Navajo Nation is our goal. Hey, appreciate all the updates. Anything else? Good. Ms. Spencer, did you get any updates on calling task force members?
I just did this one, with Miss Azua, but she said that she had to get off because she's happened to staff, one of the staff calling, and she's busy with it.
Okay. So let's make sure, because this is recorded with Zoom, if you could send out those transcripts and the action items, and I'll be transparent in terms of what we're asking and how we move forward. Alrighty. Jada, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So I know that when we started off with MMDR, we used to be able to meet, like we met through teleconference because it's a task force. And then, this, like, and then today we were told that we have to meet in person. So when did that change?
So the veto on Monday impacted the virtual option for committees, and we're under Nabagiat committee. And so staff, that's why I'm fighting it, or I don't want to say fighting it. I'm pushing back and saying, because they told us like we have to like they'll tell Ms. Spencer, you have to abide by committee rules. And so one time the Office of Legislative Services canceled one of our meetings because it wasn't posted within 24 hours. And so now with this, I want clarification. But my hopes is then we could compromise, and so all of the Navajo programs should be here in person, and then the community representatives can still call in. So there's a few things I need to do as chair, and I've asked because the legislative council that helped us develop this task force, that was the intent and that was our understanding. But Office of Legislative Services interpret the development in a different manner. And so we're waiting for Office of Legislative Council to make the final determination.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. Anything else? Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it. I'm glad we're all here centered. I know we said our prayers this morning for protection and recognizing that this is a heavy day for the Mike family and all of her relatives. We just want to continue to shed light, love and light on all of our missing relatives and their family members. And Pamela has asked all of us if in your capacity, think of Ashton today as she would have turned 21 and her favorite food was spaghetti. And I think that's something that's just to help out the families in different places. So, and we'll send out those flyers. Abiga? Okay, And can we get more training from the federal partners?
Yes, just a quick update on that. The training that we did with, let's see here, what it was. They were part of the federal program, and because they were a federal program, they fell under the federal shutdown, so they didn't get any of their budget, any of their funding for the year. So they did tell us that they would reach back out to us to reschedule some more training sessions, but I believe the federal government is back and
Should
working.
have started today, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, as soon as he signs it, everything should go into effect and SNAP will get their funding within 24 hours.
Well, he signed it, I saw.
Oh, did he sign it?
I don't know, I
haven't
saw,
seen it.
who knows now with AI or whatever, but I saw something signed.
Okay,
so we'll reach back out to
but the
them.
good news is SNAP will get their funding within 24 hours.
Perfect.
So we'll reach back out to the individuals who did the training for Kate and we'll proceed forward with scheduling more training, because our next training is going to be for Kate training level 2.
Can you say what Kate is just for those who
Yeah.
on the call?
Kate training is just the child abduction tabletop exercise. It's just educating anyone who joins these training sessions how to address a child abduction case and how these procedures go when it comes to finding a missing child. So we're going to go into level 2 next. So just look out for that email and that calendar invite.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you. I think that's all we have. All right, everyone be well. We'll head up to Nabigiatia.